Hi, I'm Sharmen Kimbrough here at the Marriage Recovery Center to talk to you today just a little bit about secondary abuse. I want to define what it is to help you see how you might have been impacted negatively by it and to give you some things to think about to deal with it. I'm sure you've probably heard us give this definition of emotional abuse before. Emotional abuse is an ongoing pattern of destructive behaviors used to gain and maintain control over one's spouse for one's own benefit at the expense of their spouse. Fleshing that out a little bit more, it is an ongoing pattern of powering over another person so that that person loses their God-given freedom to exercise their God-given right and responsibility to choose who they are and how they show up in the world. Secondary abuse comes into the picture when the abused person comes to a trusted advisor for help and their abuse is overlooked or dismissed or minimized by that trusted advisor, and the weight of responsibility to fix the relationship is put back onto the victim. Secondary abuse happens when you go for help, and the help is to pray, to read a Bible or book study, to go on more dates, and to throw away your flannel pajamas without addressing the harmful power and control dynamics happening in the relationship. Secondary abuse is when your pastor or mentor implies that there is nothing that you can do to stop the harm, so you must simply learn to endure it better so that the marriage can be saved, even if it's all up to you. Here are some examples of secondary abuse. Most often, when a couple finally seeks help for their marriage, it's because something has finally rocked the boat, enough that they realize they can't bail the water out on their own. Whatever it is that rocked the boat, that last straw, becomes the focus of the sessions. Unfortunately, that last straw is usually the mistreated, misaligned, powered over spouse having finally exploded under the weight of the harm that they've had to endure. He or she has finally had enough, and they're now acting out in any way that they can to reject the oppression of their spouse, to reject the status quo. The goal becomes how to most quickly resolve whatever it was, whatever these reactions are, to get back to the happy little status quo. The problem is that happy little status quo was of two very disconnected, dysfunctional, inauthentic people pretending to get along in the public eye, but who are enduring powering over and oppression within the context of their marriage. Well-meaning counsel in the church holds the institution of marriage in much more sacred esteem than the relationship of the marriage. People are told to suck it up, smooth it over, make nice, but definitely do not even think of filing for divorce because that's simply not allowed. You're stuck with the one you choose, even though he turned into a monster. We're taught the covenant is so sacred, you must hold on to it, even when it silences the voice and the light of God in you. Counsel often looks like deciding whose truth is right, whose version of the story, whose perspective and perception is the correct one, the right one, which allows the husband to act badly with very little accountability. This is exactly what secondary abuse is. It's allowing him to act badly without accountability and puts the weight and responsibility of the relationship on the wife to give more, to suffer more, and denies the entitlement issues inherent in a headship and submission theology. A headship and submission theology hides a man's selfishly motivated pattern of behavior and allows him to get away with what he wants to do, whatever he wants to do. That is, he does what he does because he wants what he wants, and the church tells him he can because he's head of the home, and she must submit. Church council rarely allows a woman the freedom to challenge bad behavior. In an abusive relationship, a quiet and gentle spirit is actually defined by a silenced spirit. She is compliant and obedient. She is commonly taught the message that being a godly wife looks like forgiving more, enduring more, praying more, and letting God step in to convict him because she's not the Holy Spirit and therefore has no authority, none, to speak out against the sinful behavior. Her only recourse is to move out of his way by not speaking up, not acting out of her own agency to disengage from his sinfulness, and not insisting that he treat her differently. People helpers have a natural gravitation toward the person who is affirming their influence by responding openly, willing, and ready to change, or toward the person who seems the most confused and disturbed, which is not the abuser. In other words, their giftedness is in being helpful, and they naturally lean into where they feel affirmed and helpful without awareness that they're potentially compounding the harm by ignoring the resistant, difficult one. He has perfectly good logical explanations for his behavior, and her defense looks like confused apologies, and so the people helpers get stuck trying to unconfuse her apologies. It is natural to gravitate toward the person who is doing the work, who wants to be there, and who seems to be listening. But she is then given the responsibility to define the problems, to identify the issues, and come up with a list of what needs to be changed for him. He was not bothered enough to drag them to counseling for change until she exploded in resistance to his behavior. So she's put back in the position of having to identify what has to be changed. Honestly, she believes she could do more. But in an abusive relationship, the more she does, the less he does. And the less he takes responsibility for his contributions to the chaos. When she thought she was coming for help, and the pastor, counselor, or mentor doesn't help, she is exponentially harmed. When the burden of responsibility is put on her to do more, to be more, to sit down and shut up more, she loses all hope. When her trusted advisors refuse to recognize the primary abuse and choose to deny or diminish or disregard it, dismissing her pain as if she's the problem or is overthinking this and making it all up, and then they give biased information that is harmful or uneducated or careless or lofty spiritual advice, she's going to feel even more alone and even more abused. She learns that her church family, her social network, and the culture around her will not help her. They will not stop the harm. She is alone, and she does not matter. This actually directly affects her image of God's character because she has it written on her heart that God's character is protective, that it is loving, that it is for her and for her good, and that he has designed and called her for a purpose. Her expectation is that the people around her who say they love God will reflect those same character qualities to her. Secondary abuse, a counselor or coach's careless words teach her that the people of God will not defend her. The church is not a place of peace or safety or justice. And the end result is a stronger negative impact than the original abuse. It is a crushing impact. She will very likely go silent and disappear and probably divorce. And you may never hear from her again. She will be disillusioned by the church. She will be disillusioned about the church, about God, about her spiritual formations and foundations, about relationships. And she will end up highly traumatized by it all. So, if you are this person, man or woman, here are some things to think about to heal from secondary trauma. Marriage issues are not really just marriage issues. They are symptoms of individual heart issues. If your spouse is not willing to look at his or her own heart, you can't work on the marriage. You will need to focus inward and do your own heart work to get better grounded in God, to strengthen your sense of self and the mission and purpose for which He has designed and called you. You cannot love well if you are not well, and so you've got to make room to be well. Become a seeker of truth. Learn to be discerning rather than spoon-fed, even with the people you have looked to and trusted the most. A byproduct of continually being powered over and told what to think and believe is that you don't know how to hear or trust yourself. So change that. Learn to listen to the Holy Spirit in you, whose role is to convict you of what is true, to tell you what the truth is. Learn to think for yourself and filter it through His leading. If it is not truth and does not resonate with your heart as truth, don't waste your energy on it. Seek the truth. Truth brings freedom. It brings joy. It brings rest to your heart. So if what you're thinking about and mulling over does not bring freedom and does not bring joy and does not bring rest to your heart, dump it. We want to walk in truth. Learn to put words to what you think, feel, and need, and quit doing that for your spouse. Let him or her do their own work to put their own words, to put to words what they think and feel and need. You each have the right and responsibility to own who you are and live that out. So take back your agency to do so and give back your spouse's. Life is not about a destination. It's not about the destination of a fixed marriage or a divorce or the landed job or the purchased dream home or the conquered cancer. It's not about those destinations. Those are simply random headings. It's about the journey lived along the way, how you show up on the road to whatever things are before you. Right now, you are where you are because that's the road you've been set on. Do what you can in this moment, this day, to make the most of where you are on this journey, to be healthy, wise, intentional, and purposeful. Your eyes can be on whatever finish line you'd like, but living is done in the walking out to get there. Every single step is a step, a direction. Put your energy into showing up well for each of those steps. The healing doesn't just happen. It happens in the work of the journey. Keep your eyes locked on God's and take the next step that He puts in front of you. There is nothing that has taken Him by surprise, and nothing you can do to mess up His plans, even when they look very differently than what you expected or what you wanted. So keep walking, keep trusting, keep showing up. That is what makes life. Building one day upon the other, becoming more and more authentic and connected to others. We would love to help you clarify your focus, strengthen your weak knees, and learn to stand up and show up well. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel with the button below for more insightful encouragement and practical steps. And if you'd like to find out more about our groups or how to sign up for sessions, please go to our website at marriagerecoverycenter.com or contact our client care team at the contact information in the description below as well. Thank you so much for giving me a few moments of your time. Until next time, take care.